Good evening. Welcome to the AB617 Portside Steering Committee July meeting. Interpretation is now available. Tenemos interpretación del inglés al español. Lo pueden acceder apretando el icono del globo abajo de la pantalla. Y también estamos en vivo por YouTube Live. We were also live on YouTube Live, so thank you. Welcome again. And we'll give people a couple of minutes to join our meeting virtually. All right, and so maybe we can get started with the interpretation instructions. Oh, and Ted is here, okay. So Chuy, do you wanna? Great. So we do have a live interpretation from English to Spanish. So you can, si tenemos interpretación del inglés al español. Si necesitan interpretación, pueden, aquí dependiendo si están en una tableta, computadora o teléfono inteligente, pueden buscar el icono de el globo para donde dice language interpretation y escoger español. So if you need the interpretation, you can click on the interpretation, whether you're on your iPad, computer, or smartphone using the instructions on the screen. And if you need Spanish or if you need English, you can click there. Great. So with that, Chu, you want to go to the next? My name is Daniela Simonovich. I'm your facilitator for this evening with my colleague Chuy Flores and Joanny. And we are happy to welcome you tonight. And I'm going to hand it over to Domingo to give us some initial kind of comments and updates.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I want to congratulate everybody in the steering committee and everybody that had a role in getting our SERP to our board and to its final stage. And it was an important milestone for us who have been working in this process. And our next stop will be the CARB board in October. And we are really looking forward to that date and looking forward to have a state-approved SERP. But just wanted to acknowledge everyone's efforts to get the SERP approved this past week by our board, and just restate my commitment and APCD's commitment to continuing to work with all of our community partners and all of our partner agencies to implement the SERP. And again, congratulations, everybody. I also am starting this meeting today with some sad news, unfortunately. We learned last week that a colleague from CARB passed away unexpectedly, and his name is David Salardino. I'm not sure if many of you got to work with him. He worked a lot behind the scenes. He was part of our AB617 team with the state. He also contributed a lot to this process, to getting the SERP where we are right now. And we will miss David. We'll miss working with him, but his legacy will live on through the work that we're doing here and through all the improvements that we'll make to air quality and the public's health in Portside community. So, if I may, I'd like to ask for just everyone here to share with me a brief moment of silence in memory of David. Thank you, David, for everything that you did for this community. Thank you, everybody. With that, I will turn it back to you, Daniela.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Domingo. I think a couple of other updates that we had just Well, I wanted to maybe, Ted, I wanted to give you a chance. We have a couple of changes in the steering committee, and I don't know, Ted, if you wanted to share your news.
All righty, thank you. Friends, today is my last meeting with the steering committee. It's been a real pleasure working with all of you. I thank the staff, and in an email that maybe Daniela can forward to you as well. But of course, the staff has been excellent and patient with us all and informative. And Daniela and Shui have helped us a great deal. And I give special shout outs in my email to the Port District for making such professional and comprehensive moves that I look forward to going forward as a resident of Old Town National City. So thank you again, everybody, and good luck in everything you do going forward.
Well, thank you, Ted. As we got a moment of appreciation for Ted, I know you, thank you for your commitment and your leadership for this process. It's been great to get to work with you and know with you in this process. With that, I'll share my news. This is my last meeting here co-facilitating alongside Chewy and Joanny. I will be going on to a new job starting next week. I'll be working as a senior advisor on environmental equity to the chair of the Air Resources Board, Leanne Randolph. So I hope in that role to be continue connected to this, staying connected to the work you guys are doing, supporting you from a different space. I look forward to working with Liliana and the rest of the wonderful staff at CARB in my new role. And I think that, you know, I go on to that experience so blessed and grateful that I had this time with you all. This is the most favorite project I got to work on in the firm in my 2.5 years. And you know, the lessons we've learned here, we will take on to the other steering committees and into my new role. So I will be there when CARB votes to approve the SERP, and I will be cheering all of you. So Joanny and Chewy will continue to stay on as part of the team. They will probably have some new faces, you'll see some new faces to support them, but Chewy will stay on as our lead point of contact with Joanny supporting, and so it'll be great. And so I will miss you all. You were all my favorite people, but our paths will cross.
Daniela, if I may have the mic again just for a little bit, I just really wanted to acknowledge the great work that you have done, and really the role that you had in this steering committee has been instrumental, just getting all of the community together, getting all of the agencies together, getting us through all of our meetings, all of our discussions, and helping us figure out a path forward when we were getting stuck. Really taking the time to elevate the voices of the community and of everybody in the steering committee. The work that you have done is amazing. We will miss you tremendously, but we are also very excited to know that you will be a very close ally at CARB. And, you know, it's always good to have friends in high places. So we will definitely continue to work with you, and looking forward to everything that will come from your new role. So again, thank you very much for everything that you've done for us. I know that you leave us in good hands. So we are also excited to continue to work with Chu and Giovanni. So thank you, and thank everybody in your team.
Oh, well, great. Well, good. Well, I made this my last week at work because I wasn't going to miss this meeting. So let's make it a good one, everybody. And thank you for all the kind messages. And you all have my contact information. I'll make sure to pass it on to Domingo once I start at CARB next week. And you can always reach me. I consider myself an honorary member of your community. Okay, other updates then? Do we have any more, Chewy? Remind me. I think, yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so great. So we're meeting objectives for tonight. Did you want to run through those, Chewy?
Yeah, definitely. So for today's meeting, we'll be getting an update from the Air District on the Phase 1 strategies of the Community Emissions Reduction Plan. We're also getting an update on AB617 funding incentives, as well as the development of the air filter monitoring program in the Portside community. We're also going to learn a bit more about the California Air Resources Board Advanced Clean Fleet Rule, and we are voting on 2 letters of support that were brought on by Mundo Gardens and EHC, respectively. So we're starting today's meeting with the both big voting items, so both letters of support. So we're starting with Mundo Gardens' request for supporting a Cali PA EJ small grant application. And then for the second item, we are first going to get a presentation from CARB on the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule, and then a presentation by EHC as part of the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule Coalition. And then we are going to ask the steering committee for a vote on the letter of support. After that, Domingo will be giving an update on the phase 1 SERP1 implementation, including a project highlight from BAE. Following that, Kathleen Keehan and Nick will be giving an update on the AB617 incentive funding and the air filter monitoring program. Then following that, we'll have our general public comment and closing remarks. And now for a roll call. Daniela, I'll pass it on to you.
Great. So again, we'll just go through the roll call list. If you can be ready to unmute. Ashley Rosiatramati, are you here? Okay, no Ashley tonight. Jack let us know he's not going to be here. Massey, are you here tonight in his place?
Oh, I'm sorry. Massey also notified she's not going to be able to join us tonight.
Massey's also not here. Okay, Sarah Giobi, I think I saw you guys, Sarah. Great, our first person. We approved the SERP and no one wants to come anymore. Okay, Sandy Naranjo.
Here.
Great. Larry Hofreiter.
Here.
Great. Elisa Arias.
I'm here.
Great. Joy Williams.
Here.
Great. Jorge Gonzalez. Are you also here? Okay. No Jorge tonight. Okay. Martin Reeder or David. Hi, Martin.
Hi.
Roman Partido Lopez also let us know he's not going to be here this evening. Stephanie Yoon also let us know she was not going to be here, but I think her alternate, Sabrina Perino. Dr. Perino, you're here tonight?
Yeah.
Great, thanks for joining us. Jose Marquez Chavez?
I'm here.
Hey, Diane Vermeulen, are you also here tonight? Diane, okay. AC Demal?
Here.
Okay, I see Helen Hoff? Helen. Dinah Willier?
Here.
Hey, Dinah. Filomena Marino? No, Filomena. Janice Luna Reynosa? Are you here with us tonight, Janice? Okay, no Janice. Hillary Medina? No Hillary. Alicia Sánchez? Sí, está presente. Perfecto. Margarita Moreno?
Here.
Hi. Naomi Sánchez? No, Naomi. Vanessa Contreras? No, Vanessa. Salvador Razabrica?
Here.
Hi, Sal. Montserrat Hernández?
Presente.
Perfecto. Silvia Calzada?
Here.
Ashley Valentín González?
Here.
Hi, Ashley. Josephine Talamantes? I saw you, Josie. Are you still with us?
I'm here.
Great. And then Maritza Garcia?
Here.
Perfect. Okay, great.
Hello, I just got here. Sorry about that.
Oh,
This
who
is
is that?
Jen.
Oh, Janice. Oh, hey, Janice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great. Okay, that's it, Chewy, from my end.
And I think that's all our updates, unless there's anything else. Okay. Moving on, for our next item, we are asking for a vote to approve last month's meeting minutes and tonight's agenda. Can we get a motion?
I'll make that motion, Chewy.
Thank you. I think that was Ted.
Yes, sir.
A second.
And I can make this and the second motion. This is Jose from Caltrans.
Got it. Thank you, Jose. And are there anybody opposed to the notes or to tonight's agenda or any edits? Hearing none, so first, our notes are passed and agenda passed. So for our next item, we are going to ask Mundo Gardens to present on their support letter and give us a little more context on what the EJ grant will fund.
Hello, greetings. I myself, as a Portside Steering Committee member, will abstain from the voting because of my relationship to the work we're doing on this. And this letter is essentially for an EPA Cal grant that is partnering with BCK. BCK is an environmental agency firm that has been working in the National School District over the years with students, basically teaching the students to campaign for environmental solutions. So it's teaching their families, for instance, to not have the water runoff that goes into the ocean and other simple solution strategies. In this case, this letter is a support letter for a grant that we're applying for the EPA Cal grant. That we will be partnering to do this work together in the National School District in the elementary schools of Kimball Elementary and El Tion Elementary. And we're asking for the support that aligns with the mission of the steering committee to support these type of efforts to support environmental solutions.
Oh, it's freaking out. Oh.
Thank you very much. That's it in a concise request, just aligning with the mission of the Portside Steering Committee, again, to support these opportunities when they come to our partners and to ourselves as environmentalists for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Does anyone have any questions on the letter? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none. Opening the floor to see if anyone wants to make a motion to approve the letter of support.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
So that was a motion by Sandy. And sorry, who was the second?
Oh, it's Dr. Perino.
Thank you, Dr. Perino. And now for a quick roll call. Sarah Giobi.
Aye.
Sandy Naranjo.
Yes.
Elisa Arias.
Yes.
Joy Williams.
Yes.
Martin Reeder.
Aye.
Dr. Sabrina Perrino.
Yes.
Thank you. Jose Marquez Chavez.
Yes.
Dinah Willier.
Yes.
Filomena Marino. Is she here? Janice
Ted.
Rain. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Ted. Ted, you're still a member tonight, right? So we can, sorry, we had taken up the list before, but.
Yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you. Hillary Medina.
Is not here.
Not here. Alicia Sanchez.
Sí.
Gracias, Alicia. Margarita.
Sí.
Gracias. Irma Ortiz. Is she here?
No, sorry. I have the running list here. Sorry, that Salvador Razo Abrica,
Yes.
Montserrat Hernández,
Sí.
Silvia Calzada,
Yes.
Ashley Valentin Gonzalez,
Yes.
okay, Josie Talamantes,
Yes.
and Maritza Garcia.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you, everybody. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Great. So with that, we have the next item on the agenda, which is a focus on a rule being discussed right now at the California Air Resources Board called the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule. And Environmental Health Coalition brought this to the steering committee for consideration of for the steering committee to take a position on elements of the rule that are in line with what the SERP is calling for. So what we're going to do tonight for the format, we have CARP staff here this evening to present an overview of what the rule is. And then, EHC is part of the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule Coalition, which is a group of community-based organizations working together to kind of advocate for on this rule. And so Joy and Danny, I think, is Danny also here, Joy, tonight from EHC? Yes, okay, perfect. Will be present. So great. So with that, I'll hand it off to Bruce Tudor, who is with us from ARB, to start his presentation, and then we'll have presenters from the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule Coalition, and then we'll bring discussion on the vote for the letter. So go ahead, Bruce, and you can start your camera if you'd like, or
I think my camera, I hope my camera's on. I believe it is.
Yes, we see you.
Oh, good, perfect. All right. And Daniela, first of all, thank you and welcome to the board. What a pleasant surprise. So good luck. I'm sure you'll do great. So as Daniela said, we're here tonight. We want to talk to you a little bit about this regulation that we're developing, which is the Advanced Clean Fleets Regulation. Can I have the next slide, please? Perfect. What you're going to see, or what you see right there, is that regulation in the red circle. That is the Advanced Clean Fleets Regulation. That's the timeline that we're working on it. We expect to have it adopted sometime in mid-2022. If you've been following this regulation, we were shooting for the end of 2021, but it's a very complicated regulation, and so it's moved back a few months for adoption. What else this chart shows you, though, is this is not the only regulation that we've been working on. You can see we have adopted and are working on a number of zero emission regulations. Those are all the yellow ones across the top. The green ones across the bottom are regulations that we have adopted and are still continuing to work on to keep those trucks and vehicles, those diesel vehicles that are out there now, as clean as they can possibly be. So we wanted to show you both of those things before we dove in a little bit deeper into the Advanced Clean Fleets Regulation. Can I have the next slide, please? Oops. I'm a little slow here. Thank you. Some of those regulations that do look at the existing diesel vehicles, I just wanted to touch on a couple of them because they are really important. And it's important to know, first of all, that there is state law. It was called the Road Repair and Accountability Act. It was SB1. You've probably seen the signs around it. It is fixing a lot of roads and so forth. One of the other things that it did is it had a guarantee in there for heavy duty trucks of a minimum useful life. So there's going to be trucks around for a while. And what we need to do is make sure that they are as clean as they absolutely possibly can be. Two of these regulations that you see on the right-hand side and in the center, one being the omnibus regulation and the new DMV verification, those have both been adopted already. The omnibus regulation does a bunch of things. One, it tightens manufacturers' warranties. That's important because, you know, just like you or I, if our car is out of warranty, maybe, you know, we take it in a little later to get it fixed, still under warranty, we're going to go in and get it fixed right away. So that's what we want. We don't want things to stay out of repair for a long period of time. It also did lower the smoke test requirements. It allowed basically what was very minimal smoke to almost none. In newer trucks, it is none. And in addition to that, it also adopts a new lower NOx standard. So basically a lower ozone standard for new engines. The one that we're working on right now on left-hand side, heavy duty inspection and maintenance, that's really important because it's basically like smog check for heavy duty trucks. Trucks aren't going to go into a smog check station, most likely. It'll all be done electronically. But again, just like with your car, the whole purpose of smog check is to make sure that it's running as clean as it should be, not putting out extra pollutants. That's exactly what that program will do. Next slide, please. All right, advanced clean fleets. So, as I mentioned, this is something that we're developing right now. And what it is, it's a heavy duty zero emission fleet regulation with a goal of achieving zero emission truck and bus, a zero emission truck and bus California fleet by 2045, everywhere that's feasible. And significantly earlier for some other types of vehicles, such as last mile delivery, you know, the Amazon vans or whatever, you know, that run around in your neighborhood, that's last mile. And for drayage truck, port truck applications. We've been working on it for a little over a year now, but a bit over a year. And as I said, we've delayed it a little bit. One of those reasons is because I didn't mention it, but in that first big chart that you saw, there was a regulation called the Advanced Clean Trucks Regulation. I think I saw someone ask a question about that.
Yes, in the chat, we have a question. Yeah. What's the difference between that rule and the fleet regulation?
I saw that pop up. Advanced Clean Trucks, and this is an important distinction. The Advanced Clean Trucks Regulation, basically, it's a manufacturer sales requirement. So it requires that manufacturers of heavy-duty vehicles increase the percentage of zero-emission vehicles that they sell in the state of California over time. The Advanced Clean Fleet Regulation, so first of all, so that drives the supply. Advanced Clean Fleets, that drives the demand. It's now going to be saying, you fleets, and we'll talk about which fleets in a moment, you fleets, you're now going to have to buy zero-emission vehicles as well or integrate them into your fleet. One thing that Advanced Clean Truck Regulation didn't do, it did not have a 100% sales requirement in it. Okay, it went up to, I believe, about 75%. What we're doing in this Advanced Clean Fleet Regulation is we're adding in a 100% sales requirement by 2040. So that's pretty important. Right, next slide, please. So who does the Advanced Clean Fleets Regulation cover? It covers high priority fleets. What are high priority fleets? Well, the way the regulation defines it is that's private or federal entities with over $50 million in revenue, or that operate over 50 trucks, well, 50 or more trucks, or that dispatch directly are responsible for 50 vehicles or more per year. Really what it means, really why they're high priority fleets, is those are the companies that are operating the most vehicles and that are most often in our communities. So those are the ones that we really want to go after, to clean up. Next slide, please. All right, this shows you the schedule for the Advanced Clean Fleets Regulation. I'm not going to go into all the dates and the percentages. You can see them here. You can find it online, and I'll show you where to find that later. The thing I want you to take away is that column on the left-hand side in green. Here's how it works, is the very first vehicles to start phasing in, which will be 2025, with one exception. I'll show you that later, or I think it's the next slide or two. Starting in 2025, the first vehicles that will start phasing into these zero-emission trucks are the ones where the technology is most available and the ones that can operate those routes that will allow them to go zero with that technology. It's things like box trucks, two-axle buses, and so forth. We're talking about and I'm not picking on Amazon, but we all see them, that size van, and even smaller, clear up to some fairly large trucks that might be delivering, furniture or appliances or something to your home. That's this box truck that we're talking about. The second two, we talk about day cabs and sleeper cabs. And if you're not a bunch of truck geeks like I and the people that I work with are, you don't know the difference there. A sleeper cab, that's the full-blown tractor trailer that you see rolling down the road with the big box on the back of it behind the driver's cab. That's where the driver sleeps. That's why it's a sleeper cab. But there are trucks that are just as large, just as powerful, that don't have that. Those are these day cab trucks. Those perform the shorter routes. Those are running from a warehouse to the local store, or from a distribution center to warehouses, whatever the case is. So those are important, and because they run those shorter routes, you'll see that we're phasing those in earlier. So again, this is something you can look at later on the timeframes if you'd like. Next slide, please. All right, I said there was an exception to that 2025, and that's this one. And I think it's probably really important to Portside. This is drayage fleets. So all the port trucks in your community, that we're going to start phasing in a requirement in 2023. Okay. And what that requirement is going to say is that all drayage trucks that are newly registering in the CARB registry, which they have to do to go into ports, they have to be zero emission to get into the port. That doesn't yet cover the existing trucks that are going in and out. But if you want to run a new truck in there, it's got to be zero emission. And why is that really important? These seaports, these intermodal rail yards that fall into this regulation, they are all located within about a mile of disadvantaged communities. It's going to help clean up those communities as soon as we possibly can. I mentioned class 7 and 8 trucks. That's what these are. These are day cab class 7 and 8 trucks. And as you'll see, by 2035, it's 100% zero emission operations, period. Next slide, please. All right, so we're not just talking about drayage fleets. We're not just talking about privately owned companies and federal fleets. It's also public fleets. So vehicles that are owned by county, city, state, other municipalities, they have a slightly different schedule. The counties and so forth, they have a different buying practice than privately owned companies. So what we're doing is by 2024, so just really a couple of years from now, 50% of all the new vehicles purchased by these public fleets will have to be zero emission. 2027, 100% of all of their new purchases will have to be zero emission. Next slide, please. So here's something else that we're looking into to kind of augment this. I have talked about large fleets, priority fleets. That also includes the trucks that maybe they hire. So a really big, and I'm trying to think of it, like Landstar. If you've seen Landstar trucks, they own a lot of them. They might also work with owner operators to hire some of those. Those vehicles will be included in their fleet. But there's a lot of huge companies out there that don't own any trucks, that deliver things to your homes, or whatever the case is. We're going to be looking at a voluntary program where fleets that maybe aren't even required to be in this ACF regulation can still choose to follow those requirements that are listed for other fleets, for larger fleets, the high priority fleets. They can choose to follow those, provide us information to make sure that they're not just telling us they're following it. And then those large companies that don't have trucks, aren't covered under this regulation, but hire a lot of people, and a lot of them hire smaller fleets to deliver their products. They can then choose to only hire these zero emission fleets. And basically, they can use that and say, look, we are a green company. We're using CARB certified zero emission fleets. There's a federal program that's very similar to it, and it's been a very successful program. Really, the whole point here is to try and accelerate the introduction of those zero emission vehicles even beyond what the rule requires. Just about there, I think. Next slide, please. All right, enforcement of ACF. We're going to enforce it like we do now, which, I mean, I go out with enforcement teams a lot. Well, I did. But you know, we're out on roadsides all the time. We do fleet audits. We look at the various databases of reporting information that come into CARB. And one thing that's important here to note is I mentioned that there's the large company, the high priority fleet that is regulated, and that also covers, as I said, the vehicles that they may hire, okay, which might be single owner operators that they hire. In almost all cases, the person that's going to, or the entity that's going to be responsible if they're not meeting their fleet requirement is going to be that high priority entity or the government agency. They're the ones that are going to be held responsible because they're the ones that have to meet that fleet percentage. So unless a small owner operator is, you know, is not basically lying and saying, yes, you know, we have a zero emission vehicle or possibly some other things, they're not going to, you know, they probably won't bear any burden here. Next slide, please. And I'm sorry, someone's typing or something in the background, and it kind of, if you can put it on mute, please. All right, maybe the most important thing to you, to you folks, to this community. How does this rule align with the Portside community's goals? All right, there's three of them that it touches on, and specifically 2 and 4. So in your SERP, you are committing or you are targeting going 5%, I'm sorry, going 100% ZEV 5 years ahead of what California is requiring. When you talk about California requiring it, this is the regulation that's going to require that. So that's how this aligns into your SERP. You know, we're going to support all of the goals of the community emission reduction plan as we have been. But again, this gives you that baseline specifically for goals 2 and 4. Also, as the community continues to work with the Port of San Diego on its maritime clean air strategy, this regulation, as I said, this is going to be the standard by what you judge what the state is requiring. So again, it's really critical. It's critical for the state. It's critical for this community. And with that, can I have the very last slide? That's where you can get some information. The easiest way, by the way, we give you the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule website. You can write it down or type it in. Easiest way, just do a search for CARB Advanced Clean Fleet Rule. It's the first thing that's going to come up for you. So with that, I'm not sure how they're going to open up with questions. I apologize. I work on part of the rule. We've got a lot of other experts to help answer questions as well. So Daniela, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. Well, so the next presentation is by members of the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule Coalition, so which Environmental Health Coalition is a part of. And we have some of their additional members here tonight who Danny Serrano will introduce. I think what maybe we can do right now is maybe ask, does anybody have questions for CARB staff before we let ACF go? Okay, or maybe we can let the coalition go, and then if there's other questions, then we can do longer questions after. Perfect. Great. So with that, I want to introduce Danny Serrano. And Danny, I'm so sorry. Remind me your official title. You're at Policy Director, I think, at Environmental Health Coalition.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Toxic Free Neighborhood Campaign Director is the full title. I forget it. So do you want to share that? And we can share the letter on the screen now if you like. Sure, I appreciate that, Danielle. Thanks very much. And good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Danny Serrano, and Joy Williams, who you all know, and I are both speaking on behalf of the Environmental Health Coalition. In addition, Patricio Portillo, transportation analyst with the Natural Resources Defense Council. I want to make sure that Patricio was able to get in. And Jimmy O'Day, who is a senior vehicles analyst with the Union of Concerned Scientists. So we're all presenting together So I don't know if only one panelist can be shown on the screen at once, but
no, you're just spotlighted. So
okay.
we can spotlight you all. But and Patricio, sorry, I had made you a panelist earlier, so I'm not sure what happened, but you should be in panelist mode now. So
okay, great, thanks, Daniela. So they'll be joining us on our presentation. As Daniela said, we're all members of a much larger coalition known as the Advanced Clean Fleet Coalition that is tracking CARB's Advanced Clean Fleet rulemaking, which is what you just heard by Bruce. As you know, the Portside Community Emission Reduction Plan, your SERP, includes an advocacy measures section that was added in order to address rules or actions such as CARB's Advanced Clean Fleet rule, which have the potential to improve air quality in our region. The Advanced Clean Fleet rule will in part establish the rules to transition diesel trucks, as Bruce had just mentioned, so trucks that pick up cargo from the port of San Diego, for instance, to zero emission by 2035, and will have major implications for the SERP communities. This is why it is critical for the Community Steering Committee to ensure that the Advanced Clean Fleet rule supports the goals of the SERP and the needs of our communities. So tonight we're requesting that your steering committee do the following. Take a position on the Advanced Clean Fleet rule in support of the recommendations presented tonight, which are also discussed in our letter shown on the screen, and send it to CARB. Number two, send the steering committee's position to the Air Pollution Control District Governing Board with a request that they take a similar position. So with that, Jimmy will now speak to the first few items in our letter, followed by Patricio, and then Joy Williams will close. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Really great to be here. Jimmy O'Day, calling in from Oakland, California. I participate in my community's AB617 group in West Oakland, so really good to be part of your communities. And part of this coalition that Danny and Patricia are also part of, 30 groups or more. The first ask in this letter to CARB is really a support of the requirement that every new drayage truck be zero emission beginning in 2023. We think that this is so critical to meeting the state's goal of 2035 that all drayage trucks are zero emission that Bruce outlined, let alone the 2030 goal in the San Diego community. We do have one specific ask to go stronger than CARB has proposed, that trucks carrying cargo containers, whether they're entering or exiting a port or rail yard, all trucks containing or carrying cargo containers be subject to those zero emission regulations. We don't want there to be a loophole where a zero emission truck can go into a port, take a container out, and then give it to a diesel truck to do the rest of the trip, for example. So we think that that's a really important loophole to close to protect communities. The second ask is that the state forcibly retire old trucks. There's a lot of old polluting trucks on the road, and we will never meet our air quality and climate goals as long as these trucks get to continue for very long lifetimes. So we support the state in upholding SB 1, Senate Bill 1, lifetime requirements. So essentially a truck, when it reaches 18 years of age, it needs to be retired, a diesel truck. The third ask is a pretty big one, that this rule, there's a lot of components we like to it, but there's some pretty big shortcomings in how far this rule actually goes in the number of electric trucks that it will result in. You heard that the state has a goal of all trucks being zero emission by 2045, where feasible. This rule does not get close to that. It really doesn't go beyond what will be achieved by other policies. So, for example, 2035, this rule would only result in about 15% of trucks on the road in California being zero emission. So that other 85% really needs to be addressed. And we think that the state should do that through this policy. And I'll turn it over to Patricio for other recommendations.
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. So one of our recommendations is kind of based on this rampant issue in the trucking industry, particularly around drayage and goods movement, which is the practice of driver misclassification, where companies illegally misclassify their drivers as independent contractors to avoid their responsibilities as an employer. So to increase the compliance rates with the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule, we need to really address this misclassification and ultimately prevent the companies from shifting the burden of complying with this new regulation onto the drivers. So how do we do that? We need to hold the controlling entity or common owner responsible for complying with the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule. When I'm referring to this common owner or controlling entity, I'm talking about, for example, a broker or logistics company that owns zero emission vehicles, but or owns zero vehicles, but on a daily basis is directing drivers and trucks to run routes. They would be considered that controlling entity, even though they own none of the vehicles. And to their credit, CARB gets this, and Bruce talked about it just now in his presentation. They've included this language in the rule for the high priority fleets, but they also need to do this for the drayage segment as well, where we know that this is just such a rampant labor issue that's occurring. Another key recommendation that we have to CARB is requiring fleets to prepare and submit zero emission vehicle business transition plans. And this should include a charging infrastructure plan. So this is similar to what the transit agencies were required to complete for a different CARB rule. But basically it would require the fleets to go through this sort of planning exercise, which would help reduce exemption requests that are based on lack of infrastructure. It would help the utility companies plan so they can begin making the necessary investments today to minimize installation delays tomorrow. And then finally, before I turn things back over to the EHC folks, we just need to do more. Jimmy started talking about ways in which we can do this. But in last year alone, there have been significant advancements, significant investments and commitments on medium and heavy duty electrification. It's really a very dynamic time for the industry. So to better reflect that dynamism, CARB should set through this rule 100% zero emission vehicles sales mandate across all truck classes by 2035. So this is a sales mandate. This is back on the manufacturers as opposed to on the fleets. And this would align with Governor Newsom's executive order on transportation electrification, the governor's recent letter calling on CARB to achieve carbon neutrality by 2035. It aligns with CARB's own mobile source strategy, but most importantly, it matches the urgency of these twin crises that we're facing of climate change and air pollution. So with that, I'll pass it over to, I guess, Joy.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I will finish it up on our presentation, and then we can go on to questions and discussion. So the points that you've heard Jimmy and Patricio put forward as recommendations are coming from the entire ACF coalition. We have an additional point that we'd like to add to our letter, that would be coming from us as the Portside Steering Committee. And that is that, there are ports and other local agencies that may want to move faster than the ACLF will require in moving fleets, to ZEV. The Port of San Diego is one example of that, as many of you probably know. The Port Commission voted last week to require drayage trucks visiting San Diego cargo terminals to be 100% ZEV by 2030. So that's well ahead of what the ACF rule currently is proposed to require, and that does align well with our SERP goal that Bruce highlighted for you on the screen. So we would like CARB to commit to support for agencies such as ports or other local agencies that do go ahead of the ACF rule. A few examples of things we can think of that may be supportive would be, for one thing, to clarify the limitations or not limitations of SB1, so that ports know they could move faster than perhaps than CARB could, and requiring fleets visiting their properties or providing services for them to be ZEV at an earlier date. We thought they also could, CARB also could give priority for incentives funding to ports and other agencies that put those kinds of requirements in place. So those are just two examples of things CARB could do to be supportive of local agencies going ahead of the state rule. And I'm sure there are others. That's just to give you some ideas of what we're thinking that could be helpful to local agencies to do that. So that covers the points in the letter. We can have questions and discussion, and then we will be taking a vote and asking the steering committee to vote for a letter that would include these recommendations to go to CARB. And it wouldn't be this letter itself. As you notice, this letter is actually written to the steering committee and not to CARB. So we'd be putting these recommendations into another similar letter. You would get to see that final letter at the next meeting. So tonight we're asking essentially for authorization to go ahead and draft that, on behalf of the steering committee. But you would get a final vote before we put the steering committee's name on it and send it off. So I will stop there and give it back to Daniela or Chewy.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everybody. There's a lot of information, both for both presenting teams. So I just want to open up to the attendees or the steering committee members. If anybody has any just basic questions, clarifying something you didn't understand, or comments. And if you're in the attendee mode, also, if you want to raise your hand, you can also raise your virtual hand if you have any questions. We'll go to steering committee members first, but are there any questions or comments in the steering committee? I see Commissioner Naranjo has her hand up, so go ahead, and then Elisa after that.
Thank you, Daniela. So thank you to the folks of ACF and also for Bruce from CARB for giving us the presentation on ACF. And so speaking from the Port of San Diego, after our meeting last week, that we made a direction that we want 100% ZEV by 2030. So one suggestion for this letter, if you guys are okay to edit on section 8, where it says such as the draft Portside SERPs. So if you guys can add such as the draft Portside SERPs and San Diego, Port of San Diego MCAS, because we have the same goal. And so it's uplifting that. So if you guys are okay to add that edit, I'm happy to support the letter overall.
I think I can speak on behalf of the team and say we'd be quite happy to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the end of my comments.
Okay.
And Elisa had her hand up, and then Sarah. So go ahead, Elisa.
Yes, thank you all for your presentations. Maybe it's a question for Patricio. Under number 3, when it talks about expanding the number of trucks covered by the rule, is there a proposal for that expansion, what it would look like?
Yeah, I think Jimmy started getting into that. I don't know, Jimmy, if you want to cover that response, but there's several different ways in which we're looking at how we can expand the vehicles that are covered by the rule. So for one, it's reducing the fleet threshold for which fleets would be required to comply. So right now, CARB is using this high priority fleet definition that sets a pretty high bar. So it's only like the really mammoth fleets in the state that are going to fall under this and are going to be required to comply. So we would lower that threshold to get at a greater proportion of the total vehicles and fleets that are operating in the state. Jimmy, is there more that you'd like to add there?
Yeah, that's one of the big ones. And then your proposal, the other point of the 100% sales requirement in 2035 is also an important way that we feel to get more numbers.
You got us talking to each other's points now.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to first of all say thanks to Bruce. You did a really good job, I think, of laying out the rules that are out there. I think, and probably the first CARB speaker we've seen that have shown all of the various rules that are coming up on the pipeline on diesel. So thank you for that. I noticed that the rule has sort of phase-ins for the percentage of trucks in the fleet. And I'm guessing that's a nod to the fact that it takes kind of time and money and availability of the trucks in order to meet that goal of finally getting to 100%. Would that be correct?
First of all, thank you. And as I said, I work on part of that regulation. I believe we have, first of all, yes, I think that is basically correct, but I want to let one of our experts weigh in. I think Craig During is on the line. Craig, if you are, could you address that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Bruce. This is Craig During. I'm actually managing the efforts for the Advanced Clean Fleets regulation. So yeah, the phase-in concept is to give fleets some flexibility to identify those trucks that are best suited for electrification in the early years. So, you know, a fleet may have a whole variety of trucks. It may not just be one type of truck. They may have a whole variety. So in those instances, we're thinking, okay, you know, let the fleet manager, let the company decide which vehicles should be electrified first. You know, starting with smaller percentages, get the experience, get the infrastructure put in place so that over time, you know, that they'll be able to transition to more and more of their trucks, ultimately to the point where they get to 100%. So, but that was the purpose of that, to provide flexibility and to build out the infrastructure so that they can ultimately get to a 100% zero.
Yeah, so thank you for that explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think one of the things that I'm hearing here from the letter, and also is that although most trucks are going to have this longer period to phase in, it's expected that drayage trucks will be 100% available in 2023, but the rule won't even be finalized till late 2022. Is that what I'm hearing? So that's not a lot of time to put all that stuff in place, wouldn't you agree? And then I think the other concern I hear is how do we expect to plan for doing things 5 years in advance of the regulation when we're not 5 years out from the regulation? And maybe that's a question for the coalition. But, you know, having been on the compliance side before, I mean, I love the idea, and I know we all want to get there with the electric trucks, but trying to say that we have to do things 5 years before a regulation is passed when you don't even know what's in the regulation, and then, so it's sort of like, wouldn't we have to ask CARB to pass the regulation, say 6, 7 years in advance, so that we would know what was going to be in the regulation in order to comply? So that's kind of one of the concerns I'm hearing here.
I did just want to chime in on one thing, and we do have, just like Craig, we have someone from our drayage truck effort that's working in this rule. But and so please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Andre or Jessica. But the regulation, we're actually looking at targeting mid-2022, which isn't a lot of different time. I understand that. But in addition, that first requirement, that 2023 requirement, is only for new trucks going into the port. So it's not a complete turnover of all the trucks at the port. It's not a requirement for that. What it is saying is if you want to, it's very similar. I think LA and Long Beach to do sort of a similar thing. If you're a new truck going into the port, you have to be cleaner than what might otherwise be required. This will be the same. For those new trucks going in, that's where you'll have to be an electric truck. The actual phase-in's a little bit longer. And Andre or Jessica, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. And I guess I don't operate a drayage truck, so I guess I don't know. But we've heard from other folks in the community that sometimes the advance time on getting an electric truck can actually be years. So that even if you had the money to buy one today, you may not actually get delivery of it for quite some time. So I just want to be sure we're not setting up a compliance burden, which is impossible to meet. And with that, I'll let somebody else talk.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, I saw Melo has his hand up, so go ahead.
Yes, good evening, everyone, and thanks for the great presentations. I've been reviewing both I guess the proposals and the rulings that are already out there. With the Teamsters here, Local 542 in San Diego, work closely with the Teamsters in LA and throughout the state. I myself come out of the port of LA and Long Beach as a truck driver, owned my own truck at one point, and in 2008, when the first Clean Air Action Plan came through, the concern that I have from that experience is the burden falling on the wrong entity, right? The number is extremely high to say 50 as a bar, you know, even it doesn't matter. You can bring it down to about 20 and you still miss a great portion of those operating within the port. We're talking about the port drayage system. Here in San Diego, I don't think we have that problem, as in multiple companies going into the servicing the port. I think that we have a couple, but for sure do not fit that 50, the benchmark, right, of 50 trucks that they're operating. And so the one concern would be, I would be supportive to expand that. I'm supportive of the letter as it is. I just think that we need to really focus on the targeted goals being challenging because of the I guess technology being available, how readily available. I know it's all slow rollout, but here locally, I think that we can do much more if we just focused on what that is. At a statewide level, we have bigger problems, a wider net to cast, and it's a lot harder to track and make sure that those changes are enforced as well. But so it's like to both parties, right? The CARB and EHC, the challenge that we have is very straightforward. We want the clean trucks. I agree that zero emissions is the way to go, the direction that we need to go. Is just we need to be able to empower ourselves as a steering committee and CARB and the Air Pollution Control District here in San Diego to make sure that we do the right thing. And the burden must not fall on the driver. That I keep hearing owner operator. I had my own permits and still couldn't do it when it came down to the ports, right? It's the competition is so deep that when you're competing against 900 companies that are registered at any port, you as an individual cannot do business that way. So you are leased on. So you're not you don't have the control direction, which I like that part of the letter from EHC, because ultimately someone is in control and someone is directing this work. And that's where we need to focus our energy in identifying those parties and trying to help those parties or entities, if you will, be successful. And the last piece that I'll make comment to here is that in 2008, when we went through this, those vehicles now have to be replaced. Guess who paid for those in 2008, and guess who's going to pay for them now, right? So we are talking about doing the right thing and making this a sustainable system. We need to refocus or actually pinpoint that focused entity that will take care of the future, right? I don't have a problem funding a company saying, here you go, here's a nice kickoff for you. And you know, you have the business model that's going to make you your money. You're going to be successful. You're up in front in the zero emissions technology. And now it's up to you to maintain it and make sure that we move forward. I don't want to be here 10 years from now. You know, I've been in this business for, well, my family since 1980, since we've been arguing this point of the misclassified driver. So believe me, it's something that we can definitely fix the misclassification by addressing the appropriate party being the responsible party. So I'll leave you guys with that. I'm always around, and you guys know that like from day one, this has been my pet peeve of misclassification. The words owner operator, independent contractor, all that stuff is just a misnomer in the port. I mean, we do have the ones that come in from out of state and they run in, but they're still brokered by someone going into the port. They're not going in as myself, Salvador Brica, here to pick up this container. It doesn't happen like that. So it's that's my 2 cents to this. And like I said, I'll be supportive of the letter. I hope that we can actually expand. My thought of how I read that expansion was into the community of those vehicles serving the community. You know, the stores, the deliveries to the stores, You know, and we represent U.S. Foods, Cisco, Coke, Pepsi, UPS Freight, UPS drivers. So I would personally like to see the expansion go into that, especially for our Portside communities. And thank you for the time.
Thanks, Sal. Appreciate that. Danny, you had put your hand up. Did you want to chime in? And then I do want to just point that we had decided until 7. So maybe you could close us out, Danny. And then if there's any other questions or comments, people want to raise their hand. And then maybe we can bring it to the vote. But go ahead, Danny.
Thanks, Danielle, and thanks for your time tonight. I put questions. I put a few questions in there. Probably we don't have time from tonight for CARB staff, really to perhaps address and maybe bring back to your group. So they're in the chat box. I mean, I could read them off if you want me to.
That's okay. We'll document them in the notes. Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't have anything extra. I don't know, Joy, Jimmy, or Patricio, if there's anything else you wanted to add in terms of final comments. Sounds like no. So thanks very much, Daniela, for giving us the space to speak tonight. Appreciate it.
Great. And so bringing it back to the steering committee, so I think we will need a motion to for action. And I believe what Joy was proposing was asking for a general agreement, a vote signaling agreement with the points in the letter or any changes. I think Commissioner Naranjo already had a change. And so if there's any other questions or proposals, then we will need a motion from the steering committee. So
I'll motion.
What is your motion?
I'll motion that we approve the letter with the amendment of including the Port of San Diego MCAS on Section 8.
Is there a second?
I'll second
that. Okay, great. Who was that? Just for the notes.
There was 2 of us.
Okay, Josie, I heard you. Okay, great. I'll take Josie. Can everybody see what screen are people seeing? Let me see actually. Okay, great. So with that, sorry, here, there we go. All right, let's take a vote then. And then the process to clarify, Joy, you guys will draft a letter, and at the next steering committee meeting, the letter will come forth for kind of a final review and a final vote. Yes?
That's right.
Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. And thank you, Liliana from CARB, just noting that she's going to work with Domingo and Monica to get answers with the staff. And thank you, CARB staff, for that really helpful and Bruce, really simple presentation. I really made that easy to understand. So we have a motion to accept the points with the edits by Commissioner Naranjo. So first of our list today of people present, Sarah Joby.
I'm kind of confused. Are we voting on the letter or are we voting on them to draft a different letter?
To draft a letter with the points based on the points that were put in the ASTF. Okay. And then you'll just to move forward with drafting a letter basically with those points.
No.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Okay. Sandy, Commissioner Naranjo?
Yes.
Okay. Elisa Arias?
Yes.
Okay. Joy Williams?
Yes.
Martin Reeder?
Aye.
Okay, great. Let me see, Roman's not here. Dr. Perino?
Yes.
Great. Jose Marquez Chavez?
Yes.
Dinah Williams?
Will abstain.
Great. Always an option. Janice Luna Reynoso?
Yes.
Okay. Ted Godchuk?
Yes.
Great. Hillary Medina, we missed you for the first vote, but you know that you're here now. You can say yes, no, or abstain. Hillary, are you there? We can't hear you. Joanie, can you mute? Okay, are you not there? Okay, I'm not. Not present. Giovanni, can you mute whoever that noise is, please? Sorry, I don't. Chuy, can you mute that noise? Thanks. Okay, Alicia Sanchez. Oh, was it Alicia getting ready to vote? Alicia?
Sí, perdón.
Okay, perfecto. Perdón. Okay. Okay, Margarita Moreno?
Sí.
Perfecto. Okay. Sal?
Yes.
Okay. Montserrat Hernández?
Sí.
Okay. Silvia Calzada?
Yes.
Okay. Ashley Valentín González?
Yes.
Okay. Hola. Josephine Talamantes?
Yes.
And Marita Garcia?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. So that will move forward, and then at the next steering committee meeting, EHC will bring the letter, and the letter will have to be will be voted again on by the steering committee and just up for discussion. Okay, great. I will stop my share. All right, and Chuy, do you want to take us to the next item then? So the next item on tonight's agenda is back to Domingo for an update on the implementation of the CERT Phase 1 strategies. And he's going to be joined by Lydia Pelsier today too from, well, I'll let him introduce her. So go ahead.
Thank you, Daniela. So I just wanted to provide a very quick update, just highlighting some of the progress that we've had with some of the Phase 1 strategies. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So first, for Action A1 to develop and implement an incident response plan, Apcd is currently conducting an assessment of its current response capabilities, and we will present options to the Apcd board this fall, so that they can help us inform the development of the incident response plan. For Action A2 to develop and implement a public participation plan, we brought on board our outreach coordinator, and as you all know, Monica has been with us since March earlier this year, and then we've also contracted with MIG Communications, contractor who will be helping us develop the public participation plan. We're getting ready for some public outreach and workshops coming up soon, so that's already in motion. For Action A3, for quantifying community health risks from air pollutants, as all of you know, our colleagues at CARB have been working with us in developing a model to help us identify health risks and from pollutants in the community. We did get some input from the steering committee as far as the objectives of that modeling exercise, and CARB has been continued to work on collecting data from other agencies and refining the model. So that is also in motion. Next slide, please. So some actions that I wanted to highlight from our incentive strategies. First, for creating additional flexibility for incentives, we did go through a prioritization exercise in May with this steering committee, and that informed the three top areas of focus for incentives, which were residential air filtration, truck pilot project, and also zero emission port equipment. We also working on reducing emissions from passenger vehicles by having our scrap program up and running, and incentives are currently available for that program. Also, CARB has included funding for CC4A statewide, but we are waiting to see the specific allocation for the San Diego region. And then finally, for incentives, we will hear a little bit more about the residential air filtration program. So I'll leave this one for a little bit later tonight. Next slide, please. So for rule development, something of note is that we are going to have a workshop on our Rule 1210, which is our toxics program, on August 5th. And then this rule is scheduled to go to our APCD board in October of 2021. So definitely stay tuned for more information on this. And I really encourage this group and others to attend the workshop on August 5th so that you can hear about the rule and also provide your input. Next slide, please. So for enforcement actions, the development of a supplemental environmental project program within our violation settlement program, that has been completed. We have a policy posted on our website. And we have also reached out to stakeholders and community-based groups to identify existing community projects. So that's already in motion. Also, something of noteworthy here is that for D5 evaluating the feasibility of utilizing portable emission analyzers to verify compliance, a vendor to conduct testing and maintenance on these units has been established, and we have a purchase agreement in place to move forward with acquiring the technology. So the next steps will be completing the testing and maintenance to then evaluate the feasibility of using these units. And then finally, evaluating the feasibility of expanding our enforcement of truck idling regulations within the Portside community. This is ongoing. We have, we asked this in the steering committee in our last meeting if there were interested parties in, if there were parties interested in joining a working group to discuss enhanced enforcement of idling inspections in the Portside community. We have not received any responses to join, but the invitation is open if anybody from the steering committee would like to be part of a work group that takes a look into this a little bit more closely. We certainly welcome your input. Some areas to inspect were identified, but the locations were already in our routine inspection list. So we have been conducting idling inspections in the community twice a week in multiple areas that are known to have trucks that idle. And then with that, I'd like to turn it over to Lydia Pelliser from BAE Systems. She's going to share with us also some exciting news that are going on in the shipyards. So Lydia, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Can you guys all hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so again, my name's Lydia and I work at BAE Systems as the environmental manager. And I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come in and share one of the exciting things that are going on here in the port. So this truck that you see in the pictures, this is a Peterbilt 579 semi-tractor. It was developed locally by TransPower, which is now, was recently acquired by Meritor. It's a zero-emission semi-truck that was funded by the California Air Resource Board, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, SDG&E, and of course our San Diego Air Pollution Control District. And what's really cool is from start to finish, it was not only planned, engineered, and built locally by San Diegans before it was implemented, locally in the county. So this is our shipyard's second all-electric semi-truck. We did get our previous one from TransPower as well. And although this truck has a much higher towing capacity than our previous truck, we can take up to 80,000 pounds, which is great. It was going to fill like a real need that we had with an older truck in our yard. But right now it's currently being used. It's not officially drayage work, but we do have a warehouse in Chula Vista. So we take our shipments to and from the warehouse, things that we store there, things that we need back in the yard. So that is doing daily business back and forth from the warehouse specifically, and then occasionally going over to Naval Base as necessary. So yeah, and we have this truck for the next year. We designed it with some local art from our murals down at the bridge. in Chicano Park. We hope that the local Barrio Logan community sees it on the street. I don't know if they will. It does follow the truck route, but nonetheless, it does reflect our desire to really want to bring that change to our community and bring cleaner air. And it's a perfect example of what the SERP is doing. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
So something else that I wanted to talk about, is just, moving forward with implementation for phase 2 of the SERP and our meetings coming up. But before that, maybe we can open it up for questions if there are any questions, and then if not, then I'll finish with my item.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? You can raise your hand, or
kudos for the good work are also accepted, for all the accomplishments that we're moving forward. These are important things because all of you put this in motion, right? So it's also important to acknowledge that there are things going on, there are things moving, there are things happening, and it's thanks to the work of all of you.
So good work, everyone. We're doing good. Okay, Sylvia Calzada has her hand up. Go ahead, Sylvia.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to share just a quick comment that just seeing the image of that picture, it brought a big smile on my face because I know the history of Mexico. I had the opportunity to learn and live in Mexico for a while. And just the addition of stating 0 emissions, that says a lot to me as a community member, and I truly appreciate that. And I look forward to a lot of changes coming up into our communities, and the agency being available and open to work with us as well. So thank you.
Great, that's really exciting. Well, electric tugboats, electric trucks, you guys are really changing the all of the ships and the trucks in the Portside community, one by one, literally. So thanks, Lydia, for sharing that really great news. And that picture is so beautiful. And I love the idea of having the murals from Chicano Park on there. It's a nice homage to the community.
Thank you.
Great. I don't see any other questions or comments. So if you want to go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So just very briefly, as we move forward with implementation, just wanted to say that we will continue to meet with the steering committee, depending on what items we need to bring forward. Our meetings might look a little bit different. Maybe we'll use the first hour to do more of a working meeting, then the second hour to do updates. Things might shift a little bit as far as what we include in the agenda right now that our focus is not on developing the SERP but on actually implementing the measures. But one thing that I wanted to bring up to everybody's attention here is that we are taking a break in August, a very needed and well-deserved break for everybody. But also, the fact that we're not meeting doesn't mean that we can't talk to one another, right? So if there are any questions or anything that needs to be brought up, please feel free to email me, email Monica, email Daniela, or, well, I'm sorry, not Daniela at this point, but Chuy or Joanny. And we would be happy to, get a dialogue going or get us prepared for bringing any items that come up during the summer on our September meeting, like we're going to do with this with the support letter. That's going to be brought up to this steering committee again in September. So
we have a hand up from Joy.
Yeah, go ahead, Joy.
Yeah, thanks for that update, Domingo, and I think we'll all appreciate having August off. What I'm wondering about is, I think we've kind of, casually thrown out the idea of forming new work groups. And I wondered, if, how you see that progressing. Is that something we should talk about in September, or, is there already a proposal getting developed, or, how do we move forward on that?
Yeah, so actually my homework from now till September is to really, have those conversations with the implementing agencies and see what their plans are, and kind of get ourselves organized so that we know what what implementation is going to look like, so that we can bring that conversation to the steering committee and let everybody know what the plan is. There was also some preliminary conversations about our meetings, right? Do we use the space in our meetings to do the work of those working groups, or do we have a combination? So there's a lot more logistics that need to be discussed, specifically with the implementing agencies, because they will be the ones with the staff working on all these different issues. So more to come on that, but for sure it will be something that we will touch on our September meeting. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you.
And then with that, one last piece is our meeting formats. I know we started meeting in person before the pandemic. Then during the pandemic, we switched to virtual meetings, which seem to be working well. But I think it's a good time for us to do a check-in and see if we feel comfortable continuing with the virtual meetings, if there's a preference or advantage to move to in-person meetings, or perhaps even a middle ground where we do virtual meetings, and alternate between, every other month we do a virtual and then in person. I think it will be challenging to do both at the same time, because we would have to get a place where we have the technology to do the live meeting and then also, have it broadcast online. So just something that I wanted to bring up and see and kind of feel out how everybody's feeling about this, and if you have any input on that. We have a quick poll just to get a sense of how folks are feeling about this, and I see it up on my screen. I don't know if everybody else sees it, but if you can just take a minute to think about this and answer the questions. Or question, actually, there's 3 options in there. So just let us know what your feelings are for our meetings, so that we can consider your input and then have a plan to move forward. And I don't know if everybody has voted or how that's going, Johnny.
At like 60%, maybe a couple more seconds.
And again, this vote doesn't mean that we are necessarily moving forward exactly as the vote result. This is just to get a conversation going and see and find the best alternative that works for the group.
So it looks like there's strong preference for virtual.
Very strong preference for virtual. Okay. Okay. Again, this doesn't mean that we have decided that it's going to be virtual. It gives us a good sense of where the group would want to go. So it's something that we can bring back in September, and just after we analyze, pros and cons, and we hear from anybody else who wasn't present at today's meeting, or from anybody that perhaps didn't really have a strong preference tonight, but maybe after you think about it, you can, again, email me, email Monica, or Chuy, and just let us know. So thank you so much for sharing that. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Daniela.
Great. So with that, more good news and more results of what's happening because of the steering committee's work. We have Kathy Keehan and Nick Cormier here with us to talk about update on this incentive funding program and also on the air filter and monitoring program. So Kathy and Nick.
Hi, I think Nick, if you're here, I was thinking maybe you would go first, because I think the air filtration presentation is more important. My updates are very brief.
Sure. I wasn't sure if you had slides, Kathy. So whatever is okay. Well, there's my slides. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I'll go ahead and go first. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight and talk about this potential program we're working on. My name again is Nick Cormier, and I'm an air quality specialist with Apcd. I'll be presenting an update on the status of the Portside Residential Air Filter and Indoor Air Monitoring Incentive Program. And for reference, APCD has renamed this program as the Portside Air Quality Improvement and Relief Program, or what we're calling as the PAIR program, the PAIR program. Next slide, please. So in response to the USS Bonhomme Richard incident, County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher requested a one-time budget addition of $550,000 on August 19th, 2020 in the San Diego County fiscal year 2020-2021 budget specifically for the PAIR program. The one-time appropriation of funding was approved unanimously by the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. Since that time, APCD has been working behind the scenes to envision how the program may work in line with the Board of Supervisors and community's vision. Additionally, the APCD has been collaborating with the Port of San Diego on an MOU that may supplement the program with additional funding to purchase more air filters or air monitors. Next slide, please. Highlights of the program in consultation with stakeholders include the purchase of residential indoor air filters and indoor air monitors specifically for use by the Portside community members. APCD will procure the new equipment and contract with an organization to run the program through a competitive bid process. To partially reimburse residents for possible electrical and/or internet costs, each participant is also envisioned to receive a one-time monetary stipend. Each participant receiving an air filtration device is also anticipated to receive extra disposable filters to allow for at least 2 years of continuous operation at no cost to the participants. The board's budget approval also requires that data analysis be conducted for the program. As such, either APCD or an outside entity would be tasked with remotely collecting and assessing the air monitoring data received during the project. Next slide, please. APCD recently solicited bids for residential air filter devices and indoor air monitors. The winning bid for air filtration devices was the Blue Air Blue Pure 311 Auto. This air filter is a very highly rated residential air filter that is appropriately designed and sized for residential use. It's quiet, it's energy efficient, it's simple to use, and filters all the air inside a medium-sized room up to 5 times an hour. The device also operates in automatic mode, meaning the filter turns on and off as needed with an integrated particulate matter sensor when it senses a need to clean the air. The filter also includes a 2-year warranty. Next slide, please. The residential indoor air monitor bid selected was the IQ Air Air Visual Pro. This indoor air monitor also comes very highly rated and provides the most user-friendly experience out of the bids APCD received. The monitor was the only bid that also included a screen on the device itself, meaning participants can see the air quality information in their home immediately without needing a computer, phone, tablet, or internet connection. The Air Visual Pro monitors indoor PM 2.5 and carbon dioxide levels in real time, as well as humidity, temperature, and weather conditions. The device also provides 3-day outdoor air quality forecasts and recommendations for how you can improve your home's air quality so that participants can plan accordingly. When connected to the internet and configured appropriately, the device also has the ability to show air quality readings from the closest outdoor regulatory air monitor for comparison. The device can also be portably operated for a short time if needed, or installed outside with a supplemental enclosure if desired. However, when used in the home as intended, it simply sits on a flat surface and does not require installation so as to minimize any potential complications with renters or landlords. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the indoor air monitor selected is unique in that it does not require an internet connection, computer, or phone to know the current air quality inside your home. When offline, the device will continue to measure PM 2.5 and CO2 levels, temperature, humidity, and provide the AQI level inside your home in real time. It will also continue to provide recommendations on screen for improving your air quality in the home, which could include a prompt to open a window or avoid outdoor activities, run an air purifier, or wear a mask outside. Users that choose to connect the device to Wi-Fi, however, will be able to take advantage of the device's full functionality. When on Wi-Fi, the device will do everything it does offline, but when configured appropriately, it also has the ability to compare air quality data with the closest APCD monitor nearby, outside, and then it will also allow APCD to collect all historical air quality data from the device to be able to learn about its usage within the program overall. To establish a baseline value for air monitoring data for comparison purposes, APCD is envisioning potentially staggering the delivery of air monitors and air filters to residents. This should allow the operation of air monitors to occur for a short period of time prior to the air filters being installed and then remediating any air quality conditions in the household. Next slide, please. APCD will be utilizing IQ Air's Enterprise User Subscription Service as the primary method of collecting air quality data from all connected air monitors in the PAIR program. When the devices are connected to Wi-Fi, the devices will transmit all air pollutant, weather, and AQI data remotely to IQ Air. APCD, or more likely a separate future contractor, will then be able to collect this historical data at the end of the program for review, assessment, and other technical analysis as needed. APCD envisions signing up for the service for up to 1 year, which will allow the collection of a substantial amount of data from all the households that opt to connect their devices to the internet over that time period. Next slide, please. And we'll see how this goes. This will be a test. So to visualize how we think these two units will operate in tandem inside the home, we've prepared a possible example of what might occur if for some reason an incident were to occur in the future. All of the sensors on the indoor air monitor and air filter are currently showing green, meaning the air quality is clean. Advance one click, please. An incident outside the home inevitably causes smoke to enter the home and into an open window. At this point, the air monitor sensors change to red, meaning air quality is bad inside and outside the home. The air filter, which is running in automatic mode in this particular example, then turns on and remains on until the air inside the home is clean. Advance one click, please. Once clean, the air monitor sensors turn back to green and remain green until the incident is eventually extinguished. Note that in this particular example, all of this occurs automatically with minimal or no interaction required by the participant. Next slide, please. As of today, APCD has executed contracts with the air filter and indoor air monitor vendors. We are still in the process of finding an organization to administrate the program overall, and are working with the county's purchasing and contracting department with the competitive bid process. Because APCD is still in a bidding process for the program administrator, APCD is limited as to what we can discuss tonight in regards to that part of the process, such as the duties associated with that competitive bid. However, noted, APCD is envisioning the following timeline and next steps for the PAIR program. Program outreach with interested participants would hopefully begin this fall, with the program opening to receive applications from interested participants by spring of next year. The program would remain open until the program is oversubscribed with applications. By summer of next year, all new devices would ideally have been directly delivered to participants by US mail, at which point installation and remote data collection could begin. Remote data collection would continue occurring into 2023 for any devices that remain connected to the internet. Shortly thereafter, APCD would then ideally contract with an outside entity to assess the data received and report any findings. Next slide, please. That is all I have for tonight. Thank you for the time today and carving out a little bit of time in this busy agenda, but I'm happy to get any feedback from anyone on the steering committee and answer any questions that anyone may have. Or we can go to Kathy. I'm not sure what we wanted to do first, but either one's fine with me.
I think it's probably best to do questions about this if people have specific questions about this before I do my quick update.
Any questions or comments? You can raise your hand or I'll even let people unmute right now if you want to jump in. I think it's so cool. When I saw this presentation to translate it, I was looking up the air filters to get them for my house in the monitor. It's so great. Well, great. Okay, not seeing any comments. You can go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're excited about this program. I hope you all will be too, because I think it's nice to have something direct for the community. So much of what we do is kind of indirect. I just wanted to give a quick update. Since we're not meeting in August, I wanted to just take a couple of minutes to update the committee on what we're doing in terms of our incentive programs and tell you a little bit about how we're utilizing the feedback you gave us in May about how to prioritize our incentive programs. So in terms of the money that we already have from the state, from the AB617 program, we have 2 years worth of funding, both of which were about $15 million each. For our year 2 money, the applications that we received in 2019, we had selected about $14 million worth of projects to fund out of that money. We've contracted about $13 million of that out. So people are working on those projects right now. Some are short. We've already paid out about $400,000 to folks who have purchased new equipment and scrapped their old equipment. So we're excited about that progress, and we're anticipating a lot more over the next year. Some will take longer. That electric tugboat's going to take right to the end. It takes a long time to build that, but we're excited to see those projects move forward. For the projects, for contracts that or applications that we received in 2020, we're going to contract on those projects as well. We selected about $5.4 million worth of projects. We have contracted already about $1.4 million of that money is under contract right now. And we're anticipating another $3 million should be under contract very soon. None of those projects have been paid out yet because we just got them under contract, but again, as we go through this year, we expect to see some progress on those. Thinking ahead to our next project solicitations and how we'll coordinate with the SERP efforts, we've taken the top 3 priorities that you gave us at the May meeting, and that was the indoor air filtration projects, our a truck, zero emission truck pilot project. That's one of the very popular and exciting actions in the SERP, and working on zero emission port equipment solicitation. So what we anticipate doing is we're working on that right now. As you could see on the air filtration, we're moving forward with that already. The truck pilot project, the zero emission truck pilot project, we're in coordination with the Port District to frame how that project's actually going to look. And I'm hoping that we'll have a really strong framework that we can bring to you all in September for you to look at and give us feedback on. And then for the zero emission port equipment, we think that that's going to be a more competitive process, and we'll do that kind of as our have it as a category in our anticipated fall overall grant solicitation program, but to carve out some money specifically for zero emission port projects and see what kind of flexibilities, like higher cost effectiveness numbers, determine if we need to scrap the old equipment, things like that. So we're also hoping that one is a little further behind. We're still working on trying to figure out exactly what that looks like, but I hope to have a framework for that one as well in September for your consideration. So that's the update for us on the incentive end. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have or try to answer.
Well, Sylvia was just sharing her how excited she is to sign up for the air filter program, and so I think my understanding is that you guys we're looking for an organization that will actually manage the implementation of the program, right? And so once that group is identified, so if you guys know of groups, look out for the RFP when it comes out and for folks to bid.
Yeah, that's sorry, Gally. That's all correct. Yeah, the contractor we will eventually get to run this program will be putting together we'll be doing outreach and setting up the implementation and putting together the qualifications for and sign up sheets and all that. So once we do that, and we're hoping to get another RFQ out on the street potentially by the end of this month or early next month to procure that program administrator. Then there'll be some time in between when we have get that contractor under contract, and then they'll have to develop and kind of put everything together so that people can start signing up to be part of the program.
Great. Are there any other questions?
I was going to ask a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So Kathy, does that mean there's still money available?
Yes.
Okay.
How much is still available, Kathy, for the next solicitation?
I don't have an exact number, but it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, I want to say, $9 million, somewhere in there.
And
it's in several million.
What's the timeline for that? Like, when is there going to be another grant opening, or do people just need to contact you? Or
no, we'll have a new grant solicitation happening hopefully in the fall is our plan to open it up for applications. Right now we're trying to figure out what that application is going to look like so that we can incorporate the pieces that are priorities in the SERP as part of that solicitation. It may be separate depending on what the programs look like, but we'd like to have them on a parallel track so that everybody understands and can submit applications.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Sarah.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a quick question.
Uh-oh.
No, just I was just wondering if we'll be able to get the estimated emission reductions from the projects that we're funding.
Yes.
Because it would be great to report back to this group at a later date just to see, you know, what are some of those numbers looking like. I think that would be a positive thing to share with the committee.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm sorry I didn't say that. I actually wrote down for those year 3 projects that we're going to contract on right now, we expect about a 10-ton reduction in NOx from those projects and a 0.09 ton reduction in particulate, which is small but significant. The other thing that we have to keep in mind for those numbers is that a significant fraction of the money that we're putting under contract for that is for infrastructure. So there won't be direct emission reductions specifically from that spending, but it'll facilitate zero emission equipment that'll be able to use that charging.
Great.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, are there any other questions or comments on this for Kathy or Nick? All right. Are there any questions or comments from steering committee or anyone in the public just on items not on the agenda for tonight? Okay, not hearing any comments. Well, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close out. So it has been such an honor to work with you all. You're a great group. I will see you definitely, and you can always call me and I will send an email to the staff with my contact information. You guys are the best 617 steering committee, and I will still continue to say that as CARB staff. And you guys have such a wonderful team, and the Apcd staff, you've been so wonderful to work with, and all of the committee members. You guys each represent such a different and important part of your community, and watching you all come together with maybe diverse viewpoints, but you know, always respectfully, you know, working through it and keeping, you know, the eye on the prize, which is cleaning the air in Portside. Cool. With that, Domingo, do you have any last comments before we close out tonight?
Thanking you again, Daniela, for all the amazing work that you've done for this committee, and on behalf of the Portside community. I mean, it's been great to have you. It's been great working with you, and I definitely look forward to continue collaborating with you in your new role. And then once more, just celebrating with everybody our important milestone, having our SERP approved by the APCD board. Next stop, the CARB board, but just wanted to congratulate everyone again. It's been a pleasure working with all of you on this plan, and I certainly look forward to continue our work throughout the implementation process. So thanks, everybody.
Great.
Great.
So
Could I just ask for everyone to unmute really quick and give a round of applause for passing the serve and for Daniela, please? I'd like to hear that.
And Ted and everybody. I mean, I think for everybody. What a great group. And I told Domingo they have to have a party after the Delta variant is done and and everybody gets invited. So Ted, I'll see you at the party. And enjoy your August break, and the Chewy and Giovanni and the team will be back. Is that right? In September, right?
September 21st, it was listed.
Yes,
That's
the
correct.
agenda still had the wrong date. Okay, cool. September 21st. Okay, I won't see you. I'll see you in October when the SERP comes to carbs. Okay, bye.
See you in October.